Hey Mad family, welcome back to our channel. Today's video is something that I wanted to do because unfortunately I feel like my birth video didn't go as planned.
Not at all.
Right?
Not even a little bit.
I have to give you guys more in depth of like how it went down and what happened. Did not go as planned. Man, so disappointed about that, and I do apologize. So at the same time, hey, who am I? God's plan, man. Let's just get right into this video. So on August 19th, literally at 3 in the morning, I started to have contractions, and Michael was sleeping, of course, sleeping like a baby.
Yes.
And I'm literally up, like walking around the room, like doing my back and forth exercises, doing my breathing. I took a few hot baths because that's the only thing that was helping me. But the thing was, like, my contractions were not consistent. I guess what I mean is, like, what I thought in my head, you know, how I pictured labor to be, it wasn't like that. So, like, I would have contractions every 10 minutes, and like, they were, like, really, you know, hard contractions. So I decided to download the contraction app and started to time my contractions. And I'm just like, okay, boom. And then I can relax for a little bit, then another 10 minutes. So to me, I'm like, this can't be active labor. Like, this can't be it. So, because I've had a few of those, like, days like that, right?
Yeah,
like,
where you get a lot of contractions.
Yeah, and I would be in pain. So I didn't know if this was it or not. So that started around 3 in the morning. But it continued all throughout the night until about 9 in the morning. And then that's when my doctor's office opened. So I was like, you know what? I think this is it. And based off the app, it kept telling me to go to the hospital. But already my plan was to try to labor as much at home. But when the time came for 9 a.m. and my doctor's office opened, I decided to just give my OB a call and let her know and let her decide, like, hey, this is what's been going on. Should I come in or should I not? So when I called her, she was like, yeah, go in. And I was like, oh, I didn't expect her to say that.
What
Like,
time was that again?
That was at 9 a.m.
9 a.m. Mind you, I'm cutting already. I started at like 7.
And Mila is already at school because she starts school at 8.
Didn't you take her to school?
Yeah, I took her to school. And because I really didn't think this was it. And like, I really didn't think my OB was going to say, yeah, I go to labor and delivery. So when she did say it, I was like, I was stuck. I wasn't ready. I'm like, okay, that's not what I expected. But she did. And I just was honest. And I was like, well, you know, I'm not ready. Like, I'm going to pack. I'm going to shower. I'm going to, you know, do all the things that you do before you head to the hospital. So that's what I did. I was like, well, just give me like an hour or two. You know, I'm going to get ready, all that good stuff. All throughout the day, like, I had made a grocery order at HEB because I was like, you know, if it is time, I need to have groceries or like enough stuff in the house for my mom to be able to feed the girls. Because you just never know. You don't know how long you're going to be in the hospital. And I just needed a few things. So I put in a grocery order and went and got that. Mind you, Michael's working. I'm literally laboring and doing all this stuff. And then I come home. My mom cooks dinner for me. Well, a early dinner, I guess, lunch. Because she cooked around like 12, 1 o'clock. And then I eat. Like, in between time, I'm still contracting. I'm bouncing on my ball. I'm watching my show. I'm taking more baths. Like, I'm literally just contracting and doing my thing at home. Once again, still not even thinking like, oh, this is it. I'm going to have him. Then 3 o'clock comes in. He's still working. Mind you, he's like on call, you know, like a doctor.
I'm trying to cut as many as I can.
Yeah, and he's like also like coming in here. Sorry, the baby. He's also like coming in here and like, you good? Do I need to cancel any appointments? What's going on? I'm like, no, we're good. Because, like, you know, I still am, like in denial, I guess, or in disbelief. Like, I still don't think this is it. I'm like, okay, I'm just contracting, like, you know, regularly. So then 3 o'clock comes around, and I take a shower. And this may be TMI for some people, but pretty much I just lost my mucus plug. I'm not even going to say the other part.
Yeah.
I lost my mucus plug, like, the full thing. And I'm like, oh, you know, because like I wiped myself and I felt something like coming out, so I wiped myself and it was my mucus plug. And at that point, I think like right after that, my nurse or one of the nurses from the doctor's office calls me.
Like, yo, where the hell you at?
Yeah, she's like, you didn't go to the hospital yet? And I'm like, no. She's like, what is going on? And I said, well, I told her I was gonna like labor as much as I can at home. I was like, but I'm going now because once I lost my mucus plug and I felt like my contractions were a bit closer and like a bit more like harder, I was like, okay, it's time. And that's when I told Michael, like, okay, he even had like one more person to cut, and I was like, you need to cancel that person. Thank God I did that. And then on top of the time, it's 3 o'clock is approaching, and my daughter gets out of school. So I was honestly waiting for that as well, because we had no one to pick her up from school. So like, I'm trying to get everything ready. So the funniest thing ever, so my daughter gets out of school like around 3:30, but I knew I wasn't gonna make it to then. So like around 2:45, 2:30ish, I went and picked her up early. And I'm standing there because when you go into her school, you gotta give your ID, like, say, I'm picking up my daughter early. And there's someone in front of me picking up their child early, but she's taking forever. So I'm standing behind her, and then there's a dude standing behind me. And I'm standing there and I'm doing all my back and forth because I'm contracting. I'm like going back and forth, and this lady's taking forever. So whatever, I still don't say anything, and I don't know why. My husband was like, you should have said, hey, you know, like, I'm in labor, I need to get my kid.
Thanks.
But I didn't. I was being really patient. But when it did come, you know, my turn, I walked up and I was like, can you please call my daughter and can you please tell him to hurry up because I'm in labor? And the lady was like, well, I hope you're serious. And I'm like, why would I would I be playing? And it's so, like, I literally respond like, because that just threw me off. And I'm like, who says that? Like, why would I be playing about or joking about something like that? And it's funny because the dude behind me and the lady who was in front of me, but she was standing off to the side waiting, she was actually like, you can tell she's in labor. Like, look at her. I guess my face was like flushed and I'm red. And mind you, I did not stop moving. I'm like going back and forth, because that's how like I'm dealing with my contractions. And the dude was like, yeah, I know. You know, like, yeah, she looked like she's in labor. So I get my daughter and we go home. Come home, we head off to the hospital, right?
Uh-huh.
So then, as you can see in like the birth video, we head off to the hospital around 3-something. You see what happened in the car, a little bit of what was going down, the conversation. So then, yeah. So then we get to the hospital literally like around 3:45, 4 o'clock, right? Now this is when it gets real. This is when it gets really real, so y'all bear with me. And this is when it's like gets really interesting. I'm not gonna say the hospital's name, but I did not have a great experience at all. And I can honestly speak for like a lot of the women that was there at the time. Just horrible. I'm not gonna say their name, but it was just horrible. I get there literally at like 4. Let's say 4. It was like 3:50ish, 4 o'clock. And I go to the labor and delivery person or check-in or whatever, right? Okay.
And we seen how they were treating the person in front of us, so we were already like, oh, this is gonna be bad.
So the nurse or the check-in lady is checking in the person in front of us, and that lady didn't have anything serious going on. If you remember, she was only going for like a test or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And
but even then, she was still saying like it's a long wait.
It's a wait, exactly. So then we're like, okay, mind you, I'm still contracting in front of this lady's face. And like I had got one and I couldn't even move. Like I just needed to rock back and forth and breathe. So when it came to my, my turn, she gives me this paper to sign, like to sign in, your name, your due date, your birth, whatever the case may be. And what did you ask her? Oh, like, I think he asked her something like, well, how long? Because he heard her say to the other girl that it was going to be a few hours wait.
Like several hours.
Several hours. So he's like,
before she gets seen?
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. He's like, before she gets seen? And the lady's like, yeah, mind you, she had the worst freaking attitude. Yeah. And so I asked, because mind you, I know my body and I know what I've been dealing with, and I'm timing my contractions and I feel like I'm damn near there. So I'm like, but how do you know? Basically what she was saying is first come, first serve. That's first of all. But it also goes by priority. And I'm like, but how do you know who's a priority if you're not checking anybody? So like, that's the part that didn't make sense to me.
It was up to her.
Pretty much, like, you know what I mean? And that's what pissed me off, because I'm like, I need to be checked. Pretty much is how I felt. Like when I walked in, I needed to be checked because I felt like I was right there. We didn't say nothing though, whatever. We walked to the waiting room. I signed a little paperwork.
Full as hell.
We walked to the fatal. Yo, it was so full. Like, we couldn't even sit. There were so many pregnant women with their spouses. And we're like, yo, what the hell? Like, this can't be real. Like, so many pregnant women. We couldn't even sit. So we're standing in the hallway. And I'm contracting. Mind you, I walked in at 4 o'clock. I'm contracting. So this is also why, like, our mind wasn't even on recording. Because we couldn't even believe what was happening. You get what I'm saying? So it was around 4 o'clock when we walked in there. We waited in the hallway for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then at that point, I was like, I need to sit. So we walk back to the front of the hospital to get a freaking wheelchair. Then he wheels me back. When we get wheeled back, it's probably like 4:30 now, right? Because we walk, come back, boom. When we come back, there's a few pregnant women. Mind you, the room is still full of pregnant women and their spouses. And there's still like 2 pregnant women in the hallway, 1 pregnant woman with her spouse, and then me and Michael. So we start conversating with him. And I'm in the wheelchair, they're talking, and she's actually telling us that she's been there for hours. Like, she was there when there was no one there. For at least 3 to 4 hours, she's been waiting. And we're like, what the hell? And in that meantime, we're talking. I couldn't even talk, right, babe?
Yeah.
Like, I felt so rude, but I couldn't even talk to them. Michael's talking to them.
Contractions just kept getting worse.
They just kept getting worse, but they were so frequent. That's the thing.
Facts.
So the contractions were, like, getting closer and closer and worse and worse. Mind you, I'm in the hallway. With these women and even these men, like, basically in labor, like. And I'm stopping, like, in mid-conversation with these women, and I'm contracting. And what did it for me, and I can't, you know, I'm using my phone to record. I wish I can, like, tell the time. I think it was 5. Mind you, we walked in at 4, and that was my limit. I had told Michael, like, I'm waiting for an hour, and that's it, if I even make it an hour. And it's so crazy because I had literally just, like, I was texting my mom.
No, that's a fact. It really was just an hour.
It was just an hour. And I had texted my mom right at 5, like, telling her what was going on. Like, I was so pissed. I'm in this hallway. Like, my contractions are getting worse. Da-da-da-da-da. And at that point, it was, like, maybe 5:10. It was, like, 5:10. Because I had timed my contractions from 4:50 to about 5:05 or something. And I have the contraction thing there. Minutes. Like, a minute to 2 minutes apart. And those last, like, 4 to 5 contractions were the worst. Like, I started to cry, right, babe? I told him, I said, I can't do it. We have to go up there. Like, back to the check-in.
We went around.
So then we went around. Mind you, we still got to walk and do all of this. So I'm in the wheelchair. He pushes me to the lady that was really rude. Probably like at 5:10, right? And at 5:10, I don't know. I'm going to say it was God. Because the moment we bent that corner and she seen us, there was no questions asked. She was like, get them in a room. And this is not even labor and delivery. This is just a room to get checked. Okay?
To see where you're at.
To see where I'm at, like, dilated. And to put the baby, like, on that monitor thing and see, like, if he's doing okay, right? This is at, like, 5:10, you guys.